Okay, so you love animals and you're thinking about becoming an animal therapist.
It's a really rewarding field, but getting that interview is obviously the first step.
It really is.
Yeah.
And acing it is important too.
Definitely.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today in this deep dive.
We're going to be taking a look at some of those tricky questions that really make or break your chances.
Exactly.
And we'll be looking at some examples that RoleCatcher has pulled from real interviews.
Yeah, they've given us a great selection here.
They have.
So we're going to really get into it and give you
Deep.
into how to answer these.
What's interesting about this particular career path
Yeah,
is that it's changed a lot, even recently.
it has.
It's not just about loving animals anymore.
No, and it never really was.
Right.
You know, it's always been about understanding
Right.
animal welfare and, well-being.
Yeah.
But now it's even more than that.
Exactly.
Employers are looking for people with a really specific set of skills. Yeah, and that's something that RoleCatcher highlights really well in their career guide,
Absolutely.
is that there's this blend
Yeah.
of skills that you have to have as an animal therapist.
You've got to have those hard skills, like the veterinary knowledge, the
Yes.
therapeutic techniques.
Right, so that could be anything from massage to hydrotherapy,
Exactly.
even acupuncture.
Acupuncture.
For animals,
That's amazing.
it's a whole world.
It is.
But then you also see those people skills.
Yes, because you're not just working with the animals.
Exactly.
You're working with their owners.
It's a balancing act.
It is.
And you've got to be able to build a rapport with both
Absolutely.
the animal and the owner.
And manage expectations.
Yes.
Because often the owner's expectations
Yeah.
are very different from the animals.
Absolutely. And on that note of balancing acts and career progression,
Yeah.
one thing that I really like how RoleCatcher has laid out
Yeah.
is this idea that there's a clear path in this career, which I think a lot of people think, oh, I love animals.
I'll just be an animal therapist.
Right. But there are actual steps
There are.
in terms of how you progress.
From entry level right up to
Yes.
principal animal therapist.
And they give you these example profiles as well,
They do.
which is really interesting to look at.
It's like having a little window into the
Yes.
future of what your career could be.
Yes, and you can really see, okay, so maybe I'm starting out as an assistant,
Right.
but then as I gain experience and expertise, I might move into developing my own treatment plans.
Exactly. And then eventually you might be managing a whole team
Yeah.
of animal therapists.
Leading a whole center.
Absolutely.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all
I know.
kind of a title.
It's a career
It really is.
pathway with
Exactly.
lots of different avenues.
Okay, so let's jump into some of these interview questions,
Yes, let's do it.
because I think that's where it gets really interesting for people who are like,
Right.
I have this passion,
Yeah.
but how do I actually articulate that?
Yeah, how do you communicate that passion
Exactly.
to a potential employer?
The first question
Yes.
RoleCatcher has flagged for us is such a classic.
Okay.
What inspired you to become an animal therapist?
It sounds so simple,
It does.
doesn't it?
It does.
But it's
deceptively tricky.
it is because you want to avoid cliches.
Yes.
Everyone's going to say, "Oh, I love animals. I've
Right?
always loved animals."
It's about going beyond that.
It is.
And I think this is where storytelling comes in.
Absolutely.
It's not just about stating a fact.
Yeah.
It's about conveying your passion
Yes.
through a story.
So think about a specific moment
Yeah.
that really solidified this path for you.
And it doesn't have to be this big dramatic story.
No.
It could be something as simple as,
Yeah.
maybe you nursed a bird back to health when you were a child.
Exactly. Or maybe you volunteered at a shelter
Yeah.
and you had a really profound experience with a particular animal.
Or even something with your own pet
Absolutely.
that really sparked that interest.
The key is to make it personal
Yes.
and to really convey your genuine passion.
And this is where I think RoleCatcher's AI feedback
Yes.
can be really helpful, because it's not just about,
Yeah.
telling any story.
It's about tailoring it
It's about tailoring it
to the specific job.
to the specific job that you're applying for.
Exactly.
So, for example, let's say you're applying to a sanctuary
Right.
that focuses on rehabilitating abused animals.
Yeah.
You might emphasize different aspects of your story
Absolutely.
than if you were applying to a clinic
Yeah.
that specializes in sports medicine for dogs.
Exactly.
So it's about understanding the nuances
Yes.
of the specific role
And the employer.
and tailoring your story accordingly.
And don't be afraid to be a little bit vulnerable.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Yeah, because sometimes sharing a story
Yeah.
about how you connected with an animal who is struggling
Yes.
can be incredibly powerful.
it shows your empathy.
Exactly.
And it shows that you're not just in it for,
the animal
the fluffy cuddles.
It's more than that.
It's about...
You're there for the animal's well-being.
Yes.
Through thick and thin.
You're invested in their well-being.
Exactly.
Okay, so question number 2 that RoleCatcher has highlighted for us.
Okay, bring it on.
Is how do you assess an animal's behavior and needs?
Okay.
This one feels a bit more technical.
It is a bit more technical.
On the first one.
And this is where your knowledge of animal behavior is really going to shine.
Yes.
So you want to think about things like observation techniques.
Okay.
Body language, environmental cues.
So it's almost like you're a detective.
You are a detective.
In a way.
You're piecing together clues.
Trying to understand what the animal is trying to tell you.
Because they can't use words.
Right.
So you have to be really tuned in to their nonverbal communication.
And it's not just about the obvious things.
No.
Like, is the dog wagging its tail?
It's about those subtle shifts.
The subtle cues.
In their energy.
In their posture.
Yes.
Their breathing.
Are they licking their lips?
Yeah, are they yawning?
Yes.
Are they averting their gaze?
All of these things.
All of these little things can give you so much information.
And you know what I think is interesting about this is that RoleCatcher, when they're analyzing answers, their AI is looking for those keywords and phrases that demonstrate that deeper understanding.
Exactly, because it's one thing to say, I'm a good observer.
Right.
But it's another thing to actually demonstrate.
To back it up.
Yes.
With specific examples.
And that you understand the why behind the behavior.
Exactly.
What's motivating the animal to behave in that way.
And this is where I think a lot of people stumble.
They do.
In interviews. Because they might
have the passion.
They have the passion.
They might have the experience.
Yes.
But they're not able to articulate that deeper understanding. It's about connecting the dots.
It is.
Between the observation and the why.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And showing that you're not just observing.
Yes.
You're interpreting.
You're analyzing.
Exactly.
And you're using that information to then inform your approach.
And to develop a treatment plan.
And this is where I think it's really important to mention that animal therapists, they're not veterinarians.
No.
They work with veterinarians.
Exactly.
But they're not replacing them.
It's a team effort.
It's a team effort.
And it's important to communicate that in an interview.
That you understand where your role fits within the larger context
Animal care.
Of animal care.
Exactly.
So, for example, you might say something like, I would always defer to a veterinarian's diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Before developing a treatment plan.
And I would work closely with the veterinarian.
Yes.
To ensure that the animal is receiving
holistic care.
The best possible care.
The best possible care. All right. Question number 3.
Okay.
This one is always a fun one.
All right.
Can you describe a time you had to handle a difficult animal or situation?
Okay.
Now, I think everyone loves a good story.
They do.
But how do you navigate this one without sounding like you're complaining?
Yeah.
Or even worse, like you couldn't handle the pressure.
Exactly. You want to choose a story where you learn something.
Okay.
And ideally, where the animal benefited from your actions.
Okay.
So it could be as simple as figuring out how to gain the trust of a skittish cat.
Okay.
Or helping a dog overcome separation anxiety.
Okay.
The key is to focus on your problem-solving process.
Okay.
And your ability to stay calm under pressure.
So it's not about...
It's not about bad-mouthing the animal or the situation.
It's about how you rose to the occasion.
Exactly.
And what you learned from that experience.
And how you used your skills and your knowledge.
To navigate a challenging situation.
Exactly. And to achieve a positive outcome for the animal.
And this is where I think RoleCatcher's video practice feature can be really helpful.
It can be invaluable.
Because you can record yourself answering these questions. And get feedback on your body language. Your tone of voice.
Your pacing.
All of those nonverbal cues.
Exactly.
That can really make or break an interview.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing how much we overlook those things
when
we're in the moment.
Especially when you're nervous.
Yes.
You're so focused on remembering what you want to say that you forget about how you're coming across.
Exactly. And that's where having that AI feedback can be so valuable.
It's like having a coach
in
your back pocket, giving you real-time feedback.
Okay, so we've talked about 3 really important questions so far.
We have.
And we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll delve into some more of these tricky interview questions.
Sounds good.
That RoleCatcher has provided for us.
I'm ready.
So stay tuned. Okay, so we're back.
Back again.
Ready to dive into some more interview questions.
Let's do it.
So question number 4 that RoleCatcher has given us is, how do you develop treatment plans for animals?
Okay.
This one feels like it's where you can really get into the nitty-gritty.
It is.
Of your expertise.
It's where you showcase your skills and your knowledge.
Yeah, and I think it's important to approach this one with a balance of general approach and then also being able to tailor it.
Yes, because you don't want
to the specific role.
You don't want to get too specific.
Right.
Because you don't know.
You don't know what the role is yet.
Exactly.
But you also don't want to be too vague.
No, you want to give them something concrete.
Right.
To show that you have a process.
No. So, for example, you might start by talking about your overall philosophy of animal therapy.
Exactly. So, do you believe in a holistic approach?
Okay.
Incorporating different modalities.
Like massage?
Massage, hydrotherapy.
Acupuncture.
Even things like aromatherapy.
Right, or laser therapy.
Exactly. There's so many different options these days.
It's amazing how much the field has evolved.
It really is.
Even in the last few years.
And it's constantly changing.
And that's something that I think is important to highlight.
Absolutely.
In an interview.
You want to show that you're
keeping up with the latest research.
Exactly. You're not stuck in the past.
And that you're eager to learn new things.
And that you're passionate about your own professional development.
And this actually segues really nicely into question number 5.
Oh, good.
That RoleCatcher has flagged for us.
Hit me.
Which is, how do you stay current with developments and trends in animal therapy?
Okay.
So it's almost like a follow-up to that previous question.
It's a natural progression.
And this is where you can really dive into the specifics.
Of how you stay up to date.
Of how you stay up to date.
So you could talk about professional journals. Conferences.
Online forums.
Webinar.
All of those avenues.
Yeah.
Where you're constantly consuming information.
And connecting with other professionals.
And not just consuming it.
Right.
But also engaging with it.
Discussing it, debating it, sharing your own insights.
Because I think that's something that's really important.
Yeah.
Is that it's not just about being a sponge.
It's about being an active participant.
And contributing to the field.
Exactly.
And one thing I like about how RoleCatcher presents this information is they have this whole section on continuous learning.
They do.
And they emphasize that it's not just about, checking boxes.
It's not just about getting a certification.
It's about having that growth mindset.
Exactly. It's about being curious.
And being willing to challenge your own assumptions.
And to always be learning.
Exactly.
Because the field is constantly evolving.
Okay, so question number 6.
Yes.
This one can be a bit of a curveball.
Right.
Especially for people who are just starting out. What is your experience working with different types of animals?
Okay.
Now, what if you haven't had the chance to work with a wide variety of animals yet?
Right.
Maybe you've only ever volunteered at a dog shelter.
Yeah, or maybe you grew up with cats.
Right.
And that's all you've ever known.
It's about being honest about your experience.
Absolutely.
But also showing a willingness to learn.
Exactly.
So you might say something like, my primary experience has been with dogs.
But I'm eager to expand my skill set.
To work with other animals.
You're this quick learner.
And you can even highlight any experiences you've had that demonstrate your adaptability.
Absolutely.
So, for example, maybe you've traveled to a different country.
Yeah.
And you've interacted with animals that you've never even seen before.
Exactly. Or maybe you've volunteered at a farm sanctuary where you've had to learn how to care for a variety of different species.
So it's about showing that you're not afraid of a challenge.
Yeah.
And that you're open to new experiences.
Because every animal is different.
Exactly.
And every species has its own unique needs.
And that's what makes this field so interesting.
It is.
Is that there's always something new to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Question number 7.
Okay.
How do you approach working with an animal who is fearful or anxious?
Okay.
This is a big one.
That is a big one.
Because it really gets at
your empathy.
Your empathy, your understanding of animal behavior.
And your ability to stay calm.
Yes.
Under pressure.
Because if you're working with an animal who's already stressed, the last thing you want to do is add to that stress.
Exactly. You don't want to mirror their energy.
Right.
You want to be a calming presence.
So this is where things like positive reinforcement techniques,
absolutely,
creating a safe and predictable environment, respecting the animal's boundaries.
All of those things are crucial.
And I think it's also important to highlight that sometimes
the
best approach
is to do nothing.
Is to just give the animal space.
To let them come to you.
Exactly.
When they're ready.
Because sometimes trying to force an interaction can actually backfire.
It can make the situation worse.
And it's about reading those subtle cues that the animal is giving you.
And adjusting your approach accordingly.
Because every animal is different.
Absolutely.
And every situation is unique.
And that's what makes this job
so challenging.
So challenging.
And so rewarding.
It is.
Because when you do finally connect with an animal who's been through a lot.
And you gain their trust.
And you help them to heal.
It's an incredible feeling.
It's incredibly rewarding.
It is.
And it makes all of the challenges worth it.
Absolutely.
And you know what I think is really interesting about this?
What's that?
Is that RoleCatcher's AI is actually able to pick up on those subtle cues in your voice when you're answering these questions.
So it can tell if you're being genuine.
It can tell if you're being empathetic.
That's amazing.
And it can give you feedback on how to improve your delivery.
So it's like having a voice coach.
It's like having a voice coach and an animal behavior expert.
All in one.
All in one.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Technology is amazing.
It is. And it's amazing how much it can help you in your career journey.
Absolutely.
Even in something as personal as an interview.
It's like having a secret weapon.
It is.
In your back pocket.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
In this section.
We've talked about treatment plans.
Staying up to date.
Working with different animals.
Handling fearful and anxious animals.
All the important stuff.
And we've talked about how RoleCatcher's AI can really help you.
To put your best foot forward.
To put your best foot forward.
Absolutely.
In an interview. And, you know, it's not just about understanding the animals themselves, right? It's about understanding the bigger picture.
Yes. The profession itself.
Of animal therapy as a field. And
as a career path.
All the different avenues you can take.
Exactly.
Because I think a lot of people, maybe they have a very fixed idea.
I think so.
Of what an animal therapist is.
Yeah.
And they don't realize how much variation there is.
It's huge. It's a really diverse field.
And RoleCatcher does a really good job of highlighting this.
They do.
In their career guide. It's like you don't just have to be a general animal therapist. You could specialize.
Absolutely.
In a particular species.
So you could work with horses.
Equine therapy.
Equine therapy. You could work with birds.
Right.
Birds. Avian therapy.
I love that.
There's even people who specialize in reptiles.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can really find your niche.
Find your animal, so to speak.
Exactly.
And then even within those specializations, you can specialize even further.
Absolutely.
In terms of the types of therapies that you offer.
So you might be really interested in hydrotherapy.
Yeah.
Or you might be drawn to acupuncture.
Laser therapy.
Laser therapy, massage.
So many options.
The possibilities are really endless.
It's exciting.
It is.
And it's also a good reminder.
Yeah.
This is a career that can grow with you.
Absolutely.
So you might start out with a very specific interest.
Yeah.
But then as you gain experience and knowledge.
You might find that your passions evolve.
And you can branch out. Into different areas.
And there's always something new to learn.
Exactly.
Which is what makes it so exciting.
And I think that's something that's really important to convey.
Yes.
In an interview.
Absolutely. You want to show that you're
passionate about learning.
You're curious.
That you're engaged.
And that you're committed to professional development because the field is constantly changing.
And speaking of standing out.
Yes.
In a competitive job market.
It's tough out there.
It is. So certifications are a great way to do that.
They are.
Because they show a potential employer.
That you've gone the extra mile.
That you're serious. That you're invested in your career.
And RoleCatcher highlights a few that are particularly valuable. They do?
Like the Animal Assisted Therapy certification.
Yes.
And becoming a certified veterinary technician.
Those are both great options.
And what I like about how RoleCatcher has presented this information is that they don't just list the certifications.
Right.
They tell you why they're important.
They give you the context.
They give you the context.
Which is so helpful.
So, for example, with the Animal Assisted Therapy certification, they explain that this is really important if you're interested in working.
In a therapeutic setting.
With humans and animals.
Like that might be in a hospital.
A school.
Uh-huh.
A nursing home.
So many different settings.
And it shows that you have the skills and the knowledge.
To work with both populations.
Effectively and ethically.
Exactly.
Which is crucial.
And then with the Certified Veterinary Technician certification, they explain that this is really helpful.
If you want to work more on the veterinary side of things.
Exactly. So maybe you're interested in working in a clinic.
Or a hospital. And you want to be able to provide more hands-on care.
Yeah, like taking vital signs.
Administering medication.
Assisting with surgery.
So it really depends on your interests.
And your career goals.
Exactly.
So do your research.
Figure out what's important to you.
And then get certified.
It's a worthwhile investment.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about certifications.
Yeah.
We've talked about specializations.
Different career paths.
Different career paths.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But I think there's one more thing we need to touch on.
Okay, what's that?
And that's first impressions.
Oh, yes. First impressions are everything.
Especially in an interview.
Absolutely.
Because as much as we like to think that it's all about our skills and our experience,
our qualifications,
the reality is
people make judgments.
People make judgments very quickly.
Based on first impressions.
So in the context of an animal therapy interview, what's your take on attire?
Okay, so I always recommend erring on the side of professional, even if you know that the work environment is more casual.
Yeah, because you might be working with animals.
You might be covered in dog hair.
Exactly.
But for the interview,
you want to look sharp.
You want to look professional.
So business casual.
Business casual is a good rule of thumb.
So slacks or a skirt.
A button-down shirt or a blouse.
And comfortable shoes.
Yes, especially if you're going to be touring a facility.
Because you don't want to be that person who's tripping over their own feet.
Or complaining about their blisters.
Not a good look.
Not a good look.
And then finally, don't underestimate the power of a thank you note.
Oh, it's so important.
It's so important.
It's a small gesture.
But it makes a big difference.
It shows that you're appreciative of the opportunity.
That you're interested.
And that you were paying attention.
And you know what I love about thank you notes?
What's that?
Is that RoleCatcher actually has a feature.
They do.
Where you can draft thank you notes.
Really?
Within the platform.
That's so helpful.
And you can get feedback on them.
That's amazing.
From the AI.
So you know that you're sending a professional and appropriate
thank you note.
So it's just one less thing to worry about.
Exactly.
So there you have it.
We did it.
We covered a lot of ground.
We talked about everything.
We talked about what animal therapists actually do.
The different career paths you can take.
How to answer those tricky interview questions.
The importance of first impressions.
And of course, we talked about how RoleCatcher can help you.
Every step of the way.
Every step of the way.
From finding a job.
To acing the interview.
To building a successful career.
So if you're passionate about animals.
And you're looking for a rewarding career.
That's both challenging and fulfilling.
Animal therapy might be the perfect fit for you.
It just might be.
So go for it.
What are you waiting for?
Get out there and make a difference.
And don't forget to check out RoleCatcher.
They're an amazing resource.
They are.
For all things career related. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.